Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's council meeting. And I'm going to begin by asking Councillor Uhrig to read our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Kedner. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis people and their descendants past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters.
And now I'll just ask you to join me in a moment of silent reflection on today's agenda. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, just a reminder that you can declare it at any time. Announcements. Any announcements around the horseshoe? Councillor Uhrig?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things, actually. May 18th, this Saturday, Beautiful Joe, there's going to be the Royal Oak Trees Dedication and Park Celebration. That's 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, and there's going to be the talking about the unique history of the two royal oaks that are planted there, and there will be three presenters: Robert Bircher, John Hetherington, and John Howard. We'll talk about varying horticulture and tree-inspired topics. So that would be interesting to take in. As long as we're on the tree topic, this is on behalf of the Grace Harbor Conservation Foundation. This Thursday, May 18th, or 16th, sorry, it is Thursday, April 18th. Nope, something's gone wrong here. They've got the wrong date on here. So it is this Thursday. Thank you. Sorry. And it is the Earth Film Festival. So again, two shows that are going to be shown there at the Roxy Theater in Owen Sound. Again, great messaging for the environmental topics. And I'm going to morph over from Grace Hubble Foundation to the Conservation Authority. I believe everybody, everyone in senior staff and council did receive a request from the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority to complete a survey. And again, this regards strategic plan. So just want to remind everyone to hopefully take a chance to be able to fill that out so that they can further their plan. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a couple of save the dates actually today, and just a reminder to everyone that June the 15th, just a month away, is going to be the next big sesquicentennial event with a parade beginning at 1 and an after event at the Harbor Pavilion beginning right after the parade with lots of old-fashioned type games and food trucks and displays and buskers and lots of fun for everyone. So just put that date in your calendars. And also June the 23rd, which is the strawberry tea out in Bognor. There are 3 sittings, 11 a.m., 12 noon, or 1 o'clock. The tickets are $15. And you can reserve your tickets at payment bccboard@gmail.com or check the Bognor website for further details. And just a plug for the website, it's really an incredibly well put together website that the Bognor board now has. So thank you very much.
Great. Any other announcements? I'll turn it over then to Matt for any news from staff.
Thank you. I've got 3 capital project updates today. The first you may have seen, especially anybody who was at the event on the weekend, that the Harbour Pavilion post replacement project has been completed. So the pavilion is ready to enjoy for the year, including all of those exciting events for the Meaford 150 that Deputy Mayor's referred to. So that's really excellent news. Onto the Trowbridge Street reconstruction project, which of course is starting this year with engineering and design, ready for construction next year. The municipality and GSS engineering consultants will be hosting an in-person community information session to share some details about that project and the proposed design on Wednesday, May 29th, 2024, from 4 till 6 at the Meaford and St Vincent Community Centre. And then finally, I can update council that road construction on Algonquin Drive and Lakeshore Road South between Ford Avenue and Centerville Road will begin on May the 21st. Construction is expected to be completed in October and the roads will be closed through traffic. Residents on the road will still be able to access their properties, and we thank residents and road users for their patience while the work is completed.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to remind everyone that the public is encouraged to provide council with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released and are limited to 10 minutes. If a member of the public wishes to make a deputation on items on the council agenda or to ask a public question of council, they may do so either in person at the council chambers or remotely via Zoom, phone, or internet. Members of the public wishing to make a deputation or ask a public question must register in advance with legislative services by 10 in the morning on the day of the meeting. And you can do that by contacting Deputy Clerk at meaford.ca or calling 519-538-1060, extension 1100. An email with access information will be sent to those who register for remote participation. Deputations are limited to 5 minutes and public questions are limited to 2 minutes. And the public can watch this meeting live via the Municipality of Meaford's YouTube channel, www.meaford.ca/YouTube. And we do not have any presentations nor deputations today, nor public questions, because we have an empty chamber, which is unusual, but we deserve a break now and again. Council inquiries at this point. Anyone on this side of the horseshoe have a question? And we're letting staff off light too. Sorry, go ahead there, Deputy.
Your worship, thank you. I do have a couple of inquiries, if I may, today. First of all, I'm wondering if council could have an update on the STR bylaw and also the wastewater capacity report. Just curious when we might see those on our agendas.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm expecting that there will be a report and draft bylaw for the short-term accommodation on the next meeting. Wastewater allocation, we're actually hoping to meet with our new CAO this week to make some plans on that and the environmental assessment for expansion and so on. So at an upcoming meeting, I won't say definitely next one because time is somewhat short.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, may I ask a second question? Just asking staff if I could have a reminder. We just mentioned the Algonquin Drive reconstruction. Is that water infrastructure only, or is there wastewater there as well?
I believe that is water, wastewater, stormwater, roads, and sidewalks. No sidewalks.
Okay, no other questions? All right, our consent agenda, there's only one item, so I need a mover and a seconder for Community Improvement Plan Application 2024-01. The recommendation that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve a grant in the amount of $7,500 for 137603 Gray Road 12 in accordance with the Community Improvement Plan Energy Efficiency Retrofit Program. And 2, approve a loan in the amount of $29,903 for 137603 Gray Road 12 in accordance with the Community Improvement Plan Energy Efficiency Retrofit Program. A mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Forder. Discussion. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The last time when council considered this, I heard 2 opinions from my fellow councillors. One was from fellow Councillor Greenfield, who said that this application at this time basically qualifies for the rules and the process that's been laid out, and the proponent simply applied and to move forward with it positively. I heard from my fellow Councillor Bartley that what does this really have to do with the improvement of how does this really reflect putting some solar panels on the top of somebody's drive-in shed out on a farm located somewhere? At that meeting, I voted no, because of basically what does this really mean to us in the CHIP program? I've given it some further consideration, and Councillor Greenfield, you're spot on. He has done an application. It's what we have in place right now. And unless that gets changed, there's no reason why we cannot support this, because he's done the right thing and someone gave him some advice as to how to apply for doing something like this, and he applied. And so today I am going to support this application. Thank you.
Further discussion? Does staff wish to make a comment on this at all?
Yes and no.
And maybe this is a question then, the mayor might know the order that this goes in, but the counselor is correct that it follows the rules currently, but staff have some concerns about this moving forward as a program, and we've talked about how we update that. Maybe some guidance on how council would like to receive such an update, knowing that there are still applications coming in that will also outstrip the amount that has been allocated this year as well. So I don't know how we, I can't make a notice of motion, but it is a question that is related to what the councillor was saying.
Just if I can offer this, I don't know why we would have a SIP program that benefited merchants on the main street of Meaford, but didn't benefit a farmer who is also contributing to the economic welfare of our community. And our community is largely rural. So I don't have a big problem with it. I'd like to know more going forward about the long-term, financial implications of it. But I definitely believe that anything we can do to enhance our municipality as a good place to do business, whether you're a store operator or a garage station operator or a farmer or a fisherman. That's sort of my take on it. And if that elicits a little more, discussion, that's fine. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I remember the initial community improvement plan where it was pretty much exclusively for the downtown. And then we added the rural area because it seemed appropriate that it cover the whole of the municipality. And I'm not opposed to it supporting agricultural operations because, that is the backbone of our economic infrastructure. But I would like to see the plan revisited for a couple of reasons. I'd like to see what other communities are doing. We can always learn from our neighbors. And I'd also like to look at the amount that we invest in this plan, whether that is still appropriate, whether we might consider increasing that amount in our budget. So I believe Director Boyd is suggesting that a notice of motion is required to revisit the community improvement plan. So if that is the next step, then I or one of us, I'm sure, would be happy to bring that forward.
Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Your Worship. I have no problem at all in supporting this recommendation. Anything that will help with the improvement and enhancement of a farm rural enterprise, intermunicipality, as long as the rules are followed and the boxes are ticked off, then I'm definitely in favor of it. I'm not against revisiting the community improvement plan requirements as long as they don't take away anything that already exists. I think it's a good plan. Other municipalities have, I think, kind of to a degree tagged on to our community improvement plan here in Grey County, and I'm proud of that. I'm happy with that, and yes, these are taxpayer dollars, and I know our council is very cautious about how we spend taxpayer dollars, but for causes such as this, yeah, I'm very much in favor. I think it's a good plan, and I hope we could keep going. And I'm certainly in favor of this motion.
Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. I'm going to stick to my guns on this one. In my opinion, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, this community improvement plan was to improve the facades and whatnot of downtown or any business in the municipality. Rockford could have done it. And it was to create economic development. This does nothing for that. I still agree it shouldn't be in there, but it is. And if it's going to stay in there, I know right now I've got several neighbors who want to jump on it, including myself. So this can get way out of hand. Just saying, it does nothing for economic development. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? If not, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have 4 items for consideration today. The first, the recommendation is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct staff to communicate with the current owners of properties where development charges were paid between February of 2021 and October of 2023, offering refunds of non-eligible development charges after offsetting indexing changes have been applied. Need a mover and a seconder. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Keaveney and seconded by Councillor Forder. Discussion on this? We do have some discussion here just to help our ratepayers understand what this is about. Actually, why don't I hand it over to our interim CAO, Matt, and if you wouldn't mind just giving people a little bit of background to this.
Sure. I will try and do this at a very high level in less than 20 minutes worth of talking because it's a little complicated, but in essence, the municipality charges development charges to new developments, residential, commercial and industrial, with the idea that development charges pay for growth related costs of the municipality. And that might be roads, it might be parks, it might be libraries and so on. The last time the municipality passed the development charges bylaw was in February 2021, and that was at the time designed to be an interim bylaw. We were in the middle of the pandemic, ours was expiring, and so we needed something in place to keep us going till a new one was done. It's taken rather longer to do that new one than was expected, and actually I hope that we will have that published in this month, in fact, ready to be approved before council's summer break. Unfortunately, when that bylaw was passed in February 2021, the bylaw didn't include fees for certain categories of things: parks and recreation, library, studies and administration. It should have done, and to be honest, we don't know why it didn't. It appears it was a simple error somewhere along the path between our consultants and our municipal staff. After that, we continued to charge for those services because nothing changed in the bylaw other than this from the previous 2016 bylaw. So the fees that were being charged in January 2021 were still charged in March 2021 because it was, for all of the other things, the same number. We realized back in September last year that this had occurred and that it was a mistake. We obtained some legal advice and talked to council in closed session in October, and as a result, immediately stopped charging for those services that weren't included in the February 2021 bylaw. So that reduced the development charges. Alongside that, we also realized that we hadn't been what's called indexing the development charges appropriately in 2022 and 2023. Indexing happens because, according to the Development Charges Act, we're allowed to increase our development charges every year based on inflation. And it's supposed to happen at the anniversary of the bylaw, which will be February, and we were still charging them in July based on the 2016 bylaw. And it's also meant to be based on the Statistics Canada Non-Residential Building Construction Price Index for the year. For an unknown reason, the municipality indexed by a different number in both 22 and 23, which meant that we didn't increase the development charges by as much as we were able to do so. So in effect, there's two things that are wrong that we've corrected. One was we were overcharging for certain things. The other was we weren't charging enough based on inflation increases. So to try and rectify this, we have, as I said, following the closed session in October, we immediately stopped charging the things that we weren't eligible to charge for and re-indexed appropriately so that all of the other numbers were what they should have been based on annual increases. And all of this was based on legal advice from somebody who I think is really considered to be the top person in the province on development charges in general. What we now would like to do, and again, this is following some direction in that October closed session, is contact the people who have overpaid between February 2021 and October 2023 and refund them the amount they overpaid minus the amount that they should have paid for things like water and wastewater and roads that wasn't indexed appropriately. So that's a little bit complicated, but basically we have to refund something, but we can offset that by some other things that should have been charged more in the first place. So in the report, it talks about what that would look like. So I think for an unserviced single family home, so something in the rural area, that refund will be about $3,400. In the serviced area of the municipality where there are water and wastewater services, it will be anywhere between $557 and $1,241, depending on exactly where in the serviced area that is, because we have defined service areas for development charges. Our intent with council's go ahead is that we would contact the current owners of the properties, because it is our opinion that if a developer built a house and paid the development charges, they include the cost of those development charges in the sale price of the house. So in effect, the person that buys the house from the owner has paid those development charges. In many respects, this is a much easier thing for us to do as well, because then we just talk to whoever is on the tax roll for those properties. What I do suggest that we do, though, is only do that for if the house has only changed hands once. If it was built by a developer and then sold to the current owner, because at that stage, that's the person that's in effect paid the development charges. If it's sold 2, 3, or 4 times after that, my opinion is that that is then just the marketplace has priced that house accordingly. It's not that it's specifically being priced because of the development charges. So that's what we would like to do. That is complicated, I know. I've gone through it fairly quickly, but happy to try and answer any questions.
Councillor Gehrig?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you for that explanation and trying to condense something like this into simplistic terms. Good luck. And we know the development charges are such a moving target at the best of times. The only question I have is just out of curiosity, because it's interesting that it's great it's been caught and we understand that it's really difficult to lay blame on something like this. Has anybody from the public sector already been coming forth to say, hey, you guys overcharged me? And so it's really goes a long way to showing that nobody really understands it, because you would think there'd be many members of the public going, wait a minute, I've been overcharged, and not many people understand this.
Yes. I don't think that's that unusual, because what we do as a municipality, and this is the same as every municipality basically, is we publish a brochure that says, here's what your development charges are. That brochure should reflect exactly what the bylaw says, and in this case, unfortunately, for a period of 2 and a bit years, it didn't. It included the things we shouldn't have been charging for. So if I'm a resident or a developer, I'm going to go and look for that brochure, because it's meant to do it in layman's language that is easy to understand. I'm unlikely to then go and double check that against the bylaw to make sure that it is correct and that the legal language is correct. So I'm not overly surprised that nobody saw this. It took us some time to realize realize it as we were going through things for the new study. But I think it's a really positive, proactive thing for the municipality to do, to say, nope, we got this wrong. We should pay some refunds back. And that just sort of, I think, puts us in a far better situation. I should say the Development Charges Act does not require us to do this. It is, where a mistake is made and payments have been made, we are entitled to just continue onwards. But I think from our side of the table and from the conversation that we had with Council in October, it was very clear that we all believed that we should do the right thing here.
And just one more thing, the bottom line, how much potentially we would pay out?
A maximum would be $488,000. I suspect it won't be that high once we take off some of the ones that have sold more than once. I also think that because we're going to ask people to apply for this, and we need to do that so we know who to cut a check to and where to send it and all that sort of stuff. With some people, especially if it's $500, may not even respond for some of those in-town service ones, but that's the maximum. All of the money that we would be refunding will be taken from the development charges accounts, so there'll be no cost to the taxpayer specifically. It would all go back to those development reserves. We will have to pay interest on those things, and our intent is to pay interest based on what the municipality has received in interest during that 2-year period.
Thanks for the background on that. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. So we stopped, when this happened, we figured it out, but from then till now, we're not charging the right development charges. When can we get this fixed?
So I am hoping, Val and I actually had an email about this on Friday, with what we think will be the final numbers. So I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks, we will be publishing the development charges background study. We're required to give 60 days notice of the passage of a bylaw. So if we can publish by the 23rd is our aim, then we could pass the bylaw on council's last meeting before the summer break on July the 22nd. That would then mean that as of that day, we could start collecting the larger fees, because they will be larger. It is possible for a development charges background study to be appealed, and whilst we very much hope that it won't be, if it is, then we have to go through that appeal process, and so we will charge the higher amount through that process until such time as we will be told not to. So I'm hoping that July we'll be able to start charging the full amount, both for the things that should have been done in 2021 and for the increased values for some of the things that are now being affected by growth.
So as of end of July, we may be able to charge new development charges. What have we missed out on in this period of time over and above the 488?
Not a huge amount. I don't have that number to hand. We've probably had about 30 eligible new houses since then. So we would be talking somewhere in the region of, and it depends on where they are as well, because of course, if they are service properties, as most of that 30 is, then in reality, we're only missing out on the $500 or so per house because we've re-indexed to offset the other ones, which we would have been getting regardless. So anywhere between $500 and $3,000 per house for that period.
Yeah, go ahead.
And just one more question, please, Matt, or somebody will have to get involved. Our neighbors are putting up their charges to $100,000.
Ours will not be.
What are ours?
So right now, I actually had this up earlier, so let me see if I can pull it up. Right now, a serviced property that's just a regular service and doesn't have one of the special additional charges in zones for things like the Nelson Street pump station. A single and semi-detached dwelling is $13,547. That is incredibly low. If we'd have had all of the other charges in there, then it would have been somewhere in the region of $18,000. Ours will increase as part of this because every community's development charges have increased over the last few years because of the vast increase in construction costs that we're seeing. And an awful lot of that will be based on our wastewater treatment plant expansion, which is included in the study, albeit it's included in the study based on also receiving some grant money rather than all of it being funded in this manner. It will not be remotely close to 100,000 per property, but it still will be a number that will likely make some people gulp.
Yeah, so just for information, Barry put theirs to 50,000 a few years ago to slow things down, didn't slow anything down. Now our neighbors are at 100,000. Scary.
I will say development charges should never be used to try and slow something down. One of the things that we've done as we've gone through this process, and when we have the study published in a few weeks, Hempson will come and do a public meeting and do a full presentation on this. One of the things we've looked at very carefully, because we recognize that the higher the development cost, the higher the cost of housing, and we want to think about how housing can be made reasonable, is to really look carefully at the projects that we've included and to make sure they are growth related. I think in previous studies, we've had some park renovations in there. Let's think about McCarroll Park. We've talked about we have a master plan for McCarroll Park, that splash pad being separate from this, but involving new pathways and some new trees and some new playground equipment and all that sort of thing. In the past, that's all been included in development charges. We're not including that this time because from our point of view, that is us as a municipality making a service level decision about whether we want to make a park nicer. For me, development charges is about we need a new park because of the development. So we've tried to be as limited as possible on that to make sure that the numbers are reasonable. In some communities, everything goes in there because it's seen as a way of covering some of the costs to offset that from the taxpayer, which is true, but it does mean that housing gets ever more expensive.
Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, I see in the report here that there is a suggested deadline for applications of October 30th. So with that in mind, I just want to know how soon would the municipality be reaching out to these property owners?
My hope would be we get something out by the end of the month.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Mr. Smith, for your information. I'm very pleased that Hempson Consulting is fairly close to getting the background study delivered to us, and certainly our neighbors in the Big Blue have just completed their study, and if you look at development charges for semis and detached homes at places like Laura Bay, Swiss Meadows, a great many of their more developed areas, well over $100,000, and for the development charges. That's before you ever get a building permit. I understand the CAO of the Blue Mountains, Mr. Everett, is saying that without a doubt, development does cost money, and the municipality has to be prepared for these charges. And we all know that our municipality is in the midst of early major development projects, and we need to be prepared for that. For these, development has got to pay for development, and I don't think there's any other explanation for it. So we need to be prepared as soon as possible.
Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further to Councillor Forder's question, so October 30th, are we hoping that this kind of gets all encapsulated within 2024, obviously? And so that obviously covers off that budget aspect of it. But my question was also related to just how this impacts the budget in general, because obviously that was $488,000. Weren't really considering going off the books from development.
So it does, yes, for the first part, yes, the idea is that this will just be closed down by the end of the year so that we don't have to carry a liability on our audit, because you'll see when you get the audit report this year that there is that money having to be set aside. With regard to the budget, it affects us in the sense of we don't have some of the money that we intended to have for development. So, you know, that we've obviously already built the library, and so some portion of this is library related. And so we have lost that. However, because we are doing the development charges background study at this stage, the consultants take into account what we have in reserves at the moment when they're calculating the future rates. And so to at least some extent, we can recover some of the missing money just by an updated version of what our plans are for the future. That happens on a regular basis. The existing development charges study already includes money for the wastewater treatment plant. It is a long way away from the amount of money it needs to be per unit for the wastewater treatment plant. And so it's normal for the development charges study to sort of redo those based on current numbers. And so whilst, yes, we have lost this, we will get enough to do the things that we need to do based on a new study.
Seeing no further questions, are you ready to vote? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. The next item is the recommendation to approve the award of proposal RFP TS 2024-08, provision of engineering services for structure rehabilitation or reconstruction of Bridge 69, Bridge 125, and Bridge 133 to Centex Engineering and Development, Inc. for $345,378.53, including provisional items and the municipality's non-refundable allocation of HST. And to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the necessary agreement. Can I have a mover and seconder for this? Councillor Greenfield and Councillor Urick. Discussion? Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll kick it off. I have a question with regards to structure BR 069. So it does say in the report the recommended rehabilitation work would include concrete repairs, etc. But it also says the opportunity to widen the structure would be evaluated during the design process. So I just wanted to know how would that play a role in terms of the costing and budgeting going forward for this project?
As far as I can tell, and Joel is behind me if I get this wrong and can provide us any additional information, this cost is for the engineering work itself, and included in that is a review of how wide the structure should be to move forwards. If there is a recommendation from the consultants that the bridge should be widened, then that will come to council with some information on the different costs for the current versus a wider structure. And so council would have the opportunity to make that assessment as part of next year's budget work.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just wanted to start by saying what a good position we're in here in this municipality. We've got 3 bridges now, projects going forward. We just talked about Trowbridge Street, that going forward. To be able to undertake this amount of infrastructure, I think is just, it says a lot about where we are as a council in terms of our financial situation. But my question is relation to number 133, and I'm just curious to know at this point, do we think there will be a possibility of using a prefabricated type structure for this bridge just to make it more economical?
Yeah, thank you. As with any of our bridge projects, specifically for replacement, we will evaluate different types of structures that might be appropriate. A prefabricated structure might be appropriate at that location. There might be other alternatives as well that might be more attractive to us as well.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thanks, Your Worship, and thanks, Deputy Mayor. My question is somewhat similar. These 3 bridges they cross creeks, which can be very lively at times. But I really hope that Mr. Saunders is absolutely correct, that we are investigating all options. The 133 is it's a little longer than I thought it was. I think it's similar in length to the bridges out on the deviation. But here again, the amount of water is for 11 months of the year is fairly limited. So if at all possible in the future, we have to look at certainly an effective answer to problems, but let's be as reasonable as possible because again, we've got, was it 79 bridges in our municipality, and these are only 3 of them. So we've got to be as financially responsible as possible.
Through Mr. Mayor, absolutely. I think we're all looking forward to seeing the bridges to replace structures 21 and 22 go in, so we can have some experience of a different type of bridge there. We have used some prefabricated bits and pieces in the past as well, but we're always looking for options, and I think we're certainly giving instructions to our engineers for all projects that we should be looking at everything. As we saw with structures 21 and 22, there are some additional costs that are there no matter what type of bridge that we have. So in some places, some of the alternate options work really well. In some places they don't, but we're certainly looking at them for everything. And as the report says, for the trail bridge, it's all fairly likely that a prefab would be the best option there. So it just depends on things like usage and so on.
Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. 2 questions, actually, and I apologize. I should have brought this up in council inquiries. I read the letter from the Chatsworth Council, and I've expressed my displeasure to several of the councillors already in I can't believe I acted like that. Anyways, having said that, how is it going with the bridges now? Are they going to be on time? Can we get at them this year? 21, 22?
That's certainly the intent.
Pardon?
That's certainly the intent. We now have a signed contract with the supplier, and so they should be moving forward.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to beat this dead horse again, and I apologize for that. Professional fees. Bridge 125, 68% of the cost is professional fees. I don't like paying 19% on the other 2, 17 and 19%. But I'm told that's what it costs for a consultant to look after a bridge. But 68%, bridge number 125, unless I'm reading this wrong, the construction cost is 172 and the professional fees are 117,000. I just do not understand that a little bit. Can somebody explain that to me?
I don't see any volunteers.
It's not quite what you've said in that, yes, 117, 172. I think that including the contingency, which takes it to 100, it means the professional fees are somewhere in the region of 35% of the total cost of 317. I think no is the answer in reality. We are charged what we are charged. The advantage of doing a project like this, where we have the same company coming in to do 3 bridges, was designed to, as has been successful in a couple of other places, get more bids and hopefully get more competitive bids because there's less mobilization, there's more guaranteed work for companies. We had 4 come in. This one was fairly significantly the highest scoring of the 2. And so to a certain extent, it is what it is. But I think it's something that as a municipality, we need to continue reviewing about what the best way forward on this is. We have in the past, certainly internally and occasionally with council over the years, talked about, you know, what does engineering look like in the future as we do more and more of these sorts of projects. 345,000 would pay for us to have a couple of engineers on staff who could presumably do more than design 3 bridges in a year. Those are big decisions to make because they have obviously knock-on effects and other challenges that come in, but it's certainly something that we can and should be looking at over the time.
I 100% agree. Like at 19,000 on the other 2 structures, or 19%, is one thing. So when you the way you work the figures, Matt, in total cost of 317, that's because the professional fees are so high. They are 68% of the actual construction, which brings it up to 317. I personally would like to have them go ahead with the other two and drop this one for now, because that's not right. It's just not right. I'd like an explanation on that one.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thanks, your worship. Thanks, Councillor Bartley. Bridge 125, which was at one time the railroad bridge, which I assume was built in 1900, is there any heritage aspect of this bridge that's driving up the price of this? Is that a factor at all?
I don't think so. But I think the fact that it is the railway bridge is part of the issue here, in that it'll be a very different type of bridge that will go in there. So there's probably more design work to do on this one compared to the cost of actually building the bridge itself.
Joel, did you want to speak to this? I think that you.
Yeah, based on my limited experience, I think that the railway structure is likely to have some heritage value to it of some sort. What that means is that it's a strong likelihood that we could be forced into a Schedule B environmental assessment, which takes obviously more support and more kind of studies to come to the preferred option there. I would like to highlight for that structure, however, that we would be looking at alternatives, including prefabricated or potentially other opportunities that maybe the structure doesn't get replaced, for instance. That might be an opportunity we can evaluate. That might be a better for the municipality.
Thank you. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, sir. And I understand that. And I know you will do what you have to do to get the best deal on the bridge, but you still got to pay the 117,000 professional fees, no matter what bridge you put in. Do we not? I just find it, I have to watch my words here so I don't get trouble. I've been told before I shouldn't say what I say about this, but I think this is just wrong.
Sorry, did you wish to respond? Yeah, sure, absolutely.
For Bridge 125, the bridge you're speaking to, I think there's probably an opportunity there that will probably end up spending less than that amount for the engineering. Keep in mind, the engineering is usually based on what we need to spend during the design and the construction years. So as part of the construction portion of it, there's a significant amount of money and time that is spent in contract administration and contract inspection. If we move forward with something such as a prefabricated structure or even replacement of the structure, those costs for inspection and administration of the contract will be significantly less, because we're either not reconstructing it or the construction time will be much shorter. So we won't necessarily be having to pay all of those costs. There's just some unknowns that we don't really know until we get to the final design, as far as the construction, inspection, and administration. I'm not sure if that helps, but
it doesn't help me now. I wish somebody could explain it to me, because the figures here, we're going to give them $345,000 whether they build a bridge or not, in my mind. And if it was $1.5 million bridge, I can understand it, but it's $177,000 bridge. To spend 117 on professional fees. I'm sorry for beating a dead horse, but it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think Mr. Saunders has explained that it may not cost that in the long run. It depends on what bridge we choose.
The bridge may not cost, but once we agree to this today, then professional fees are paid, are they not?
The contract situation on these is a little complicated, and we haven't had to test it in the past, because the contracts that we enter into deal with both the design phase, but then, as Joel says, the contract administration inspection phase as well. If for whatever reason a bridge wasn't to move forward, then I believe that we have exit clauses to not pay the contract administration and inspection section of that for a particular bridge. I haven't looked at the documentation specifically on this one, but if Joel says that we will be able to pay less if there's less inspection needed, then I suspect that the bid is based on number of inspections or hours of inspection, and therefore this is in effect an upset limit that you'd be awarding today.
Councillor Greenfield?
Sorry, I don't want to delay this discussion, your worship, but bridges are so important in our municipality. Through you to, and again, this is putting Mr. Saunders on the spot, and I don't mean to do that, but Bridge 133, almost $934,000 to do the work on that bridge. Side Road 8, I believe I'm correct in saying there's only one permanent residence on that stretch of road west of this bridge. The other residences down that way can be accessed by concession 12, although part of concession 12 is closed down in the winter. Would it be cheaper, just throwing this out, to close down that bridge, repair that kilometer of concession 12, put it up to standards, than it would be to replace this bridge? I know can you just give us an idea, Joel? Like, could that be an option for that? It's certainly if I was living on the farm on Side Road 8, I wouldn't want that option, but this is taxpayer money. We need to look at any possibility.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in to help Joel out, I think. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure that that's something that can be answered, but we're operating under the impression that we're not closing structures, right? So that's a whole other bailiwick. I think everything that's been done through this to date is under the impression that we are not doing that. So we have no way to say what that would look like at this point.
So what would the procedure be to, investigate that possibility without changing our policy?
It's hard to say. I don't know 12th concession, and Jess, I'm not sure if you know specifically, but whether it's even possible to do that. Yeah. So it's hard because we wouldn't be able to just say this is the average cost of reconstructing something for that distance, because it's just not in a state that could be reconstructed, I suspect.
Structure 2 was exactly this. So we made the decision to not do that. And like, it's just food for thought that I don't know that we can keep everything open and still with a policy, but then think about closing things. Sorry.
No, I understand. Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm sympathetic, Steve, to the concern and unhappiness about having to pay that kind of money. I guess it still comes back to logistics, because if we kick it down the road or across the bridge, as it were, because it says the structure be recommended be replaced in the next 2 years. So if we don't do this, we're only delaying this kind of scenario. So unless there is some solution that we somehow magically figure we can come in with less professional cost, I'm not sure what choice we have. It's either one of two choices. Either we say we're not going to have that bridge, or we repair it. We're kind of rock and a hard place. So I'm not happy about paying large sums of money if it's not absolutely necessary. And Joel, thank you for that conversation, because at the end of the day, that's a budgeted figure. That doesn't necessarily mean the professional cost is actually that. That's the budgeted figure. It could come in less, depending on circumstances. But I just don't see how we have a lot of option.
I think worth noting that on all of these professional fees contracts, and we do have lots of them, it's not like we cut a check for 345,378. We get monthly invoices with numbers of hours spent and all that sort of stuff. So as Joel says, it is possible that it could be lower depending on the situation and depending on how complex this gets. The flip side of that is that on occasion it can be more as well, because if it gets really complicated or unexpected EAs and things, then these are sort of hourly rates.
Are we ready to vote? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item is the recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2024-28 being a bylaw to appoint citizen members to the Bogner Hall Community Hall Board be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. A mover and a seconder for this, Councillor Forder and Councillor Greenfield. Is there any discussion here? I think it's just a recommendation that we say yes to. We don't have to consider the personalities involved. So are you ready to vote? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And the last one is a recommendation that bylaw 2024-29 being a bylaw to appoint seasonal municipal law enforcement officers be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. A mover and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Keaveney and Councillor Greenfield. Are you ready to vote? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So I need a motion to move into committee of the whole. Councillor Forder and Councillor Bartley, and that's at 1:56 p.m. First item is the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, authorize the Treasurer, Director of Financial Services to transfer $24,612 from the General Infrastructure Reserve Fund to fund the electrical engineering design for the EV charging infrastructure at 28 Nelson Street parking lot. And 2, authorize the Treasurer, Director of Financial Services, to transfer an upset limit of $35,423, including the $24,612, for design engineering from the General Infrastructure Reserve Fund contingent on receiving the EV Charge On Program 2023-2024 grant funding for the completion of the EV charger project at 28 Nelson Street parking lot. Mover and a seconder? Oh, or did I already get one? No. Someone move this. Deputy Mayor Keaveney and Councillor Urick seconding. Discussion on this recommendation. Councillor Bartley?
Thank you, Mayor Kenner. I may be reading this wrong, but the total cost is $354,000. And we can get 90% of that, but we're only received 99,000. What's the difference?
So we have 2 grant applications in at the minute. We've received for sure one for 99,000. We are very hopeful of a second. We've had some suggestions that we were in good position for it. And if we were to get both, that would take us up to 90% funding. So really what this is doing is 2 things. Firstly, saying, if we get the grant, we can spend the extra 10% to finish it all. But more importantly, at this stage, council saying, go ahead with spending $24,000 so that we can get the design work done so that as and when the grants come through, we're ready to go. If the second grant doesn't come through, then we would either wait till another grant opportunity comes in, and there's a fair few of these floating around at the minute, or come back to council and say what it is. But with the design work happening for that parking lot right now, it makes sense to do the electrical design at the same time.
Councillor Forder? I'm sorry, Councillor Urick.
I'm not that young. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. So that second grant, do we know when that's going to be announced?
We don't. I think we were hoping sometime around now, but as with all of these grants, we're kind of sat waiting till somebody decides.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm happy going forward with this report as presented, but I just wondered if I could ask if there's any update at all on the Grey County chargers that they're moving forward with?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nothing for us, no.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. The next item is the Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, approve in principle the award of a tile drainage loan for the work at Lot 27, Concession 1, South Center Road, yes. Not many people know what an SCR is. And to direct staff to bring forward a bylaw for council's consideration upon satisfactory completion of the tile drainage works planned at Lot 27, Concession 1, south of the Central Road. Mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Bartley. Any discussion on this one? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm fine with the request as presented. I'm just curious to know, is there any time frame attached to these types of loans that a project must be completed by?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there's no like rules on that. Generally, they're paid out really quickly only because the folks do the work and they need to do the work and prove it in order to get the money. So generally, there's not a lot of lag times. Right, Val?
We don't pay out the money until we receive the money from the province, and it's attached to their property and it's paid over a 10-year period.
Councillor Bell?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I spent some time this morning with Director Wiley on this. And I know we're considering 9B, but following this is 9C. So we have the two Bothwell men who are big-time agricultural farmers. I'm confused on the position that was being asked for, the amount of money which is being asked for at what location, and which map goes with which application. And to clarify my own confusion, on page 34, at the very, very top, it says tile loan application 2034-84, Highway 26. Bearing in mind the next one that follows this one, that is the location for a tile loan application out on Highway 26 for its description. Also on item 9C, its heading when we get there will read Lot 30, Concession 2. So what we have is a heading on this one talking about being out on Lot 27 on the first concession, but he fills in his application with his home address, which is fine. You live somewhere and you own some farming property. But when you go to page 38, I'll just pull that up myself here. There's a map that shows lot 30. That, I believe, is the correct lot on concession 1. Concession 1 being the town line, St. Vincent, Sydenham. And as the lots went up through the territory, closer to Highway 26, the numbers increase. But the application on page 39, his application is for lot 27. And he puts 2 fire numbers on that. which the fire numbers are out on Highway 26. So I know what these two men would like to do. I've read both of them, and I know that they both are going to qualify for tile drainage. I just feel that the way it's formatted today, I am a little bit confused. One's out on Highway 26, which is one we're going to talk about next. This one is out here, whether it says lot 27, but the heading on the very opening says it's dealing with 2034-82 Highway 26, which is what we will clearly read in item 9C. So when I went in this morning, I know that Director Wiley has spent a little bit of extra time. She has shown me some of the background work she has done. I hope I don't confuse the rest of my fellow councillors. I just don't see it being formatted as possibly as clean as it could be. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to speak.
That was a great description. I felt the same way when we first talked about it, but I think there's two things. One is after we talked, the reports that I put in, the maps have been switched when they were uploaded. So the ones that you have, the maps are not the right appendices. So that's one thing. The other thing is, and the map that I showed you is just how the lots and concessions in that neck of the woods are laid out is not how you would expect them to be, which when we receive these, everything is attached to the roll number. So we like when we look for them, we pull the roll number and that's what is mapped. So that's all I think of when I think of that. But you living in the neighborhood, having a similar description of your property, I understand the confusion now. So I think we've got to a good place, right?
In a really
But
silly way.
I can't change the application. So I hear what you're saying, that the application is potentially somewhat confusing. That is some feedback I can give back to Meaford. Yes.
Yeah, I think though, and Justin just said it really, really well, because Councillor Bell and a number of other councillors around the table perhaps have had addresses in the past that are lot concession and so on, or have owned the land for a long time. People think like that. As far as this is concerned, it almost doesn't matter what the lot concession is at all, because the unique identifier just says is the roll number. So as long as the roll number matches up with the owner of the property on the tax roll, that's all the province cares about, and that's, to be honest, all we really care about as well. It's a strange situation, but it is just one of those things. A lot of it is because, of course, so many rural properties still don't have 911 numbers. Otherwise, this would be really simple because we'd never have to worry about lots and concessions anymore.
Go ahead, Councillor Bell.
Well, thank you both on that. And Valerie is nodding correctly to support. So then the question remains in my mind, which area is qualifying for $38,000 worth of support? And when we get there, is the other one $50,000 for its support, or are they reversed?
No, so through you, the report and the written is correct. So when you're looking at the Highway 26 property qualifies for $38,000.
Okay.
And I forget now that we've said so many addresses. The other, thank you, Side Road 30 is the one that's qualifying for $50,000.
And that's exactly opposite to what we have.
The maps are opposite, yes, but
So can I interject? Ought we to read these as they are, except switch the maps from the B map goes to C and the C map goes to B?
Exactly.
If that's easy, I'm easy. Yeah.
Thanks for that explanation. That one makes sense to me.
I Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, I totally support the application for tile drainage, 100%. And agriculture in these particular areas 100%. I just want to know that when I raise my hand, that the application says where it's going, what they're getting, who's the person that made the application, and then we can support it. Just a little cleaner than maybe what it is. Thank you.
So can we vote on item B then? All in favor? That is carried. And now do we have to do anything else except call a vote on item C?
Just a mover and a seconder first, please.
Oh, okay. Now, did we had a mover and seconder for the first one, for item C, moved by Deputy Mayor. I saw your hand go up, and Councillor Porter. Are you ready to vote? All in favor? And that is carried. Now we're moving. Updates on from members appointed to County Council and various committees and boards. So I'll call on Deputy Mayor Keaveney to give us a report on County Council dealings.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. County Council did meet last Thursday, May the 9th. It began with a presentation from Meaford resident Jeremy Wentworth Stanley regarding the pump storage facility. Mr. Wentworth Stanley spoke to the economics of the proposed facility and shared his concerns with the financial feasibility of the project. Jeremy fears there could be construction overruns, suggests TC Energy's business model doesn't make sense, cited that the risks of the project are enormous, and he outlined TC Energy's financial position, which he feels is not favorable. Council received a progress report on the operating plan for Grey Roots Museum and Archives. 2023 was a really good year for Grey Roots, with visitation and event participation rebounding from pre-pandemic levels, an increase of more than 44% in attendance over 2022. Council received the report, which highlighted statistics for the year, updates on projects and partnerships, and what to expect in 2024. The Arnott General Store opened in 2023. There are now over 700 artifacts on display in the shop. 2 traveling exhibits were hugely successful at Grey Roots. Particularly enjoyed was Game Changers, and that was an interactive opportunity to explore the history of video gaming. Through Bill 185, the province of Ontario is proposing changes to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and DC Charges Act in an effort to accelerate housing. The province is proposing changes to the provincial policy statement as well. County planning staff spoke to the positive access of the changes as well as areas of concern. Staff noted concerns with potential impacts to public appeal rights, settlement area boundaries, and regulations on bonusing. County staff will forward their comments to the province and will share them with county advisory committees, namely our PDAC, Planning and Economic Development Committee, and Agricultural Committee, as well as all the local municipalities. Council also discussed battery energy storage systems, technologies, and the needs of Ontario's electricity system. We recognize the importance of energy storage and highlighted areas of concern with Grey County and rural municipalities. Concerns include fire safety and emergency plans, impact on agricultural lands, and a lack of policy regarding battery storage systems in communities. Grey County will send a letter to the province asking for an energy land use policy guideline to be created. The IESO will be offering a second round for procurement applications in 2024. And we did talk about our project here on Meaford, just as a reminder, which is that 15-acre site on the border of Meaford and Owen Sound that, if approved, would create 100 megawatts of energy. Council confirmed support for the current county policy of continuing with recognizing community awareness campaigns, regulations for building illuminations, flag raisings, and proclamations at the local municipal level. That bylaw hadn't been revisited for 30 years, so there was a discussion about potentially adding a flagpole and creating some rules and regulations around that, but it was just felt that that could get too complicated, and we best leave things as they were. Council discussed at length the Grey Road 19 and 21 roundabout project and the need to relocate and upgrade a 20-year-old water boosting station in the area. This is TBM's boosting station. The scope of the project has certainly changed over the last 2 years. We recognize the huge growth that's happening in that area. Grey County is taking steps to renegotiate an MOU with TBM for cost sharing on this project. And it is complicated because the current boosting station sits on county land. And again, recognizing the amount of growth there, there's a need to upgrade it. So then the question is kind of the cost sharing between the county, and the water comes from Collingwood, and it's bordering on Simcoe County and TBM. So there'll be more to follow on that discussion. Thank you.
Are there any other committees or boards to report? Oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to speak very briefly to our first Pump Storage Advisory Committee meeting that happened last Thursday. And I think it was a really good first meeting. It was an opportunity for the members to meet one another. Some knew each other and some didn't. We had significantly detailed training from Nigel Belchamber on how to conduct a meeting and the role of the chair and so on. And also from Brian Lambie, who several of us have heard before from Red Brick on media recommendations and training. So it was very valuable information that was well received. Our next meeting is June the 13th, right here in Chambers at 5 o'clock. And the first order of business there will be to elect a chair and vice chair for this committee. And just a reminder to anyone listening that these meetings are open to the public and anyone is welcome to come and join us. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Greenfield.
Could I ask a couple of questions of the deputy mayor and
Absolutely,
yourself
yes.
concerning county council?
Sure.
And no, neither refers to Mr. Wentworth Stanley's address. I was able to catch some of Ms. Patterson's report about Grey Roots, and it seemed overall quite positive. I couldn't help but wondering, there were 2 fairly major staff layoffs at Grey Roots, and I'm just, when I heard her report, I couldn't help but think, that seemed to be a little contradictory. And I don't know if you can comment on that or not, but
Through you, Your Worship, and only to say, Councillor Greenfield, and thank you for attending last Thursday's County Council meeting. I should have mentioned that. There were 2 layoffs. Yes, it was a very difficult budget, as we've spoken to at the county this year. And there were other staff members impacted as well, but the 2 at the Grey Roots really stung. It did hurt them, but they do seem to have rebounded, and they're moving forward, and they are undertaking, as we heard, a number of really terrific events and projects this year. There is a long list that is in the report if anyone wants to go to the agenda for last Thursday or follow the minutes. So I think they've really adapted well to the to moving forward without those 2 individuals. The one we worried about was in the archiving, and recognizing that people will have to be a little more patient if they're requesting information. But I think Grey Roots is a wonderful staff group. They all really support each other and work together well. And I know everybody's jumping in, but you're absolutely right, Councillor Greenfield. The report was really positive and optimistic. And yes, I think a number of us couldn't help but to reflect on the fact that they were doing that with 2 members short of their staff from years past.
thank you so much for that, Deputy Mayor. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the delivery from Council Eckers, Mayor Eccles from West Grey, concerning the Durham Hospital and what may very well evolve there. And I know the forces are being mobilized. I'm just wondering, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but our municipality has a fairly small hospital, and um, how much concern should we be taking? I mean, if Durham goes, you know, what, is there anything we can be doing to be defensive about?
I'll share with you, Councillor Greenfield, that we have a meeting between the new CEO at the hospital, our new CAO, and the deputy mayor and myself. I believe that meeting is within about a week, and it will be definitely on our agenda to find out, you know, just really how the new CEO sees the future of Meaford Hospital. And I, as a county councillor, you know, we wear a county hat at county council, just appalled at what has transpired in Durham. The county is spending $100 million on a new expanded long-term care facility there, and to take the inpatient beds out of that hospital, all of them, just doesn't seem to make any sense at all. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I would just add, certainly, Mayor Eccles and Deputy Mayor Hutchinson are obviously very concerned at the county level as to what can be done to support their plight to save this hospital. And they've got the new ambulance bays coming in for being constructed by the county next to their new police station. They've got significant growth. As the mayor mentioned, the new Rockwood Terrace, and none of it makes sense if you consider their emergency room now only being open between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. And if there's an emergency at Rockwood Terrace or wherever, then ambulances are going to have to take those patients presumably to Kincardine or Walkerton. And Kincardine and Walkerton, as I understand it, don't really have the capacity to take on this extra load. So it's a significant challenge in that community. I know that the warden has written a letter, and county council discussed going straight to Queen's Park to speak to the minister. I know there's been conversation already with the premier, and the folks in Durham had a public meeting last night. There were, or not last night, last week, 700 or so people came out to their community center. They're coming together as a community and fighting hard, and I think it's up to all of us to support that, because to Mayor Eccles' point, rural health care is at risk, and we all remember fighting for our own hospital and being fortunate in doing so. And I try to think, you know, what advice we can provide to Durham. I remember back at that point in time where we looked really hard at what additional services our hospital could offer. And we worked hard at that point, Mayor Clumpus in particular, on a PTSD clinic and trying to get funding for that, and, you know, offering that service to make our hospital more viable. And that didn't happen, but now we very fortunately have our cataract clinic, which I think gives us some amount of stability. But I really feel for the folks in Durham, and I hope that we all follow this, and that we support in any possible way that we can.
If I can just continue, I think that we owe a debt of gratitude to Nora Beatty, who is one of our ratepayers, who is leading the charge provincially on the whole area of the privatization of healthcare in Ontario. And that's the bigger discussion. And I think that we really have to pay attention to and put a lot of effort into making it clear to the province that healthcare, you know, whether it's rural or in the big cities, you know, when you send all the nurses to the private sector and they can charge what they like and upsell you and so forth, I think that, you know, they're dead on that. You know, we need to send a big message to Queen's Park that this is not the direction that the province wants to go in. And I just, for your information, our meeting with Ann Ford of CEO of Bright Shores Hospital Services is 1:30 on Friday the 31st. And I have drawn her attention to the fact that we'll be asking questions about the long-term future of our hospital in that meeting, so. So, yeah, is there anything else before we leave committee of the whole? If not, let's have a mover and seconder to move on. Councillor Eric and Councillor Greenfield, all in favor? And now we have councillor motions. Is there any notice of motion first, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And I actually have two today. The first one is to request a report from staff outlining any potential policies from other communities that would look at appropriate recommendations for requiring extermination of uninhabited buildings before demolition. We have had some situations in Meaford in the past where buildings have come down that were full of some undesirable critters that caused quite a challenge for neighboring residences, and I don't want to see that happen again. So I'm just curious to know what other communities do and what guidelines or requirements we could pose here in Meaford. And my second one, as discussed earlier, would be to revisit our community improvement plan and to look at Councillor Bartley's very valid concerns, and also to consider the amount that we invest as a budget line in this plan. Thank you.
We do have a motion for decision today, I just invite Councillor Urick to move it and get a seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor? Oh, okay, all right. So go ahead and move your motion.
Thank you. It's regarding the Mural Mosaics Global Roots Project. And whereas in the interest of supporting the municipality of Meaford's growing our economy and strengthening community pillars and providing downtown beautification of the urban Meaford area, and whereas it supports the council's downtown public realm and the reestablished Market Square strategic priorities, therefore be it resolved, the council of the municipality of Meaford hereby direct staff to make a submission to the Mural Mosaics Global Roots Program to be a Canada Connects Love and Family mural host location, and that the proposed investment of $10,000 as hosting costs and $5,000 for installation be funded from the Economic Development Reserve.
Discussion on that, or questions for Rob? Deputy Mayor, or sorry, Councillor Bartley?
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. Rob, can you explain what you want to do here?
Certainly. This was actually brought to my attention by a ratepayer. It's interesting. It's actually kind of an art installation. So it involves incorporating a number of local artists, particularly youth. And what they do is they actually paint a number of small 10 by 12 vinyl pieces that are then put together to actually create a mural that is then put up in the town. So Mr. Voigt I talked to him about this, and again, meeting those pillars that we talked about and recapturing downtown. He said, we do qualify. If you look at the website, the Mural Mosaic Project, you can see a number of examples of other murals that are around small municipalities around North America. So it is basically economic development, it's tourism. If we're looking to revitalize Market Square, then it also kind of encompasses that. So from the ECDev component is kind of the angle I was going at. The only thing we have to consider, or the main thing to consider, is because I don't think we have any problem with the uptake of getting artist participation. We have a strong cultural community. It's more, where would this live? So we talked about, like, for example, there used to be a mural at the corner of Sykes and Trowbridge. And I don't know whether Mr. Allen would be interested in revisiting something like that, or the other possibility, for as another example, is corner of Sykes and Nelson on the side of Muxlow Pharmacy Building. So there are things like that that could be taken into consideration as location, but this is predominantly an economic development slash tourism slash cultural initiative.
Any other questions? Anyone on staff wish to comment at all?
Through your worship, yeah, just to note again, this is an application that we have to put out there, and we'd be in competition with whoever else is applying. If we do have to find a location, as part of the application, we have to identify the location beforehand. So we'll have to kind of scramble to get, if it is on private land, their support for that, and include that as part of the application, which is due by the end of this month. And then the company that runs that will then go through the analysis and let us know. So there's a bunch of work that we're going to have to do really fast. So if council would like to discuss recommendations or preferences, that would help too, because then we can kind of narrow it down in terms of where we're going to look. Again, it can, at best, it would be on municipal lands as well, and then that's easier that way.
I doubt, or I don't know if this is the same organization, but a similar project was undertaken in Owen Sound, and if you'll recall, on the little parkette between Victoria or Scotia Bank on Second Avenue East, and the building beside the building to the south of it had this big mural, which, as I recall, was a dollar bill or some a currency. But when you got up close and looked at it, it was made up of all kinds of interesting pictures. So how they do that, I have no idea. But it was up a long time and served a good purpose there, I thought. Anyone else have any questions or comments? You ready to vote? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Anything on the communications report that Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship, and I believe Councillor Bartley's already spoken to B, so I would like to pull C. And just, do you want me to speak to that now?
Sure.
Or come back? I'm just curious to know through you, Mayor Kentner, if we're considering any delegations at AMO this year. I know we spoke to our sewage plant expansion last year. Should we do that again, or did you have any other thoughts, Mr. Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't particularly at this moment in time. I think we could once again talk about sewage treatment, having done that at Roma in February. I'm not sure how much further forward that takes us at the minute, because we really haven't moved particularly since that time in January, February, and we are still waiting for an announcement about the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund grant application. So I think until we know whether we have that or not, we perhaps want to wait, would be my suggestion, because if we go and ask for money, they're probably just going to say, you should wait to see if you've got the grant yet. I'm not aware of anything else at this point in time that is particularly pressing that we should talk to the province about, but I know the mayor had a conversation with the South Georgian Bay mayors and CAOs 10 days ago about some of the things that other communities locally were thinking of and whether we could partner. I don't know if you've got any thoughts.
Not really. I know they're concerned about the grounds, yeah, the roundabouts at I know the roundabouts between Collingwood and Town of Blue Mountains. It's a big, especially the project you talked about there. Like, I was hoping you would mention the figure, but I think it has gotten up to the $7 million mark, something like that. Unbelievable.
Roundabouts are truly wonderful, though.
No, this isn't about this. This is just for a booster station, water booster station. Right now, it's a box that sits above ground. Now it's being housed in a palatial building and it's quite a price. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Councillor Urick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to that regard, and again, I don't presume we've heard anything, any rumblings from ISO, because obviously this has to be in by June. Again, so any meetings with Mr. Smith might be regarding TC could be potentially discussed, but again, it's all incumbent upon ISO
Yeah.
to some degree.
My thought on the pump storage project in particular is that dealing with that with the minister at a conference is probably counterproductive. I think as and when we need to have conversations with the minister about that, we will be better to do it outside of conferences and actually be able to have a proper conversation that's more than 10 minutes long, and same as we've tried to do a few times over the last 12 months with ISO, because I think there is an element for me of saying that these delegations are slightly performative. I know that when we spoke to the Minister of Infrastructure in January, she said that she'd heard 30 different presentations within the last 2 days, pretty much all asking for money. And so I think while there's a value to it for getting certain things in front of the ministers for some of those really big things like pump storage, I think we'd be better developing that relationship outside of the conference settings.
Any other correspondence that you're interested in raising? Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Your Worship. I do want to examine the brief memo we received from the Township of Chatsworth. It's item C, I think it was. To me, first of all, it was a rather unusual wording to their recommendation. That it recommended a negative action, and usually recommendations represent something positive. And to me, there's something positive about this. So the wording to me was a little off base, but I really think our municipality, our municipal council deserves some explanation, some reasons. I mean, it's very easy to make a flat statement, basically yes or no, but I really think we deserve some reasons, like what is going on. Okay, I know Township of Chatsworth has had some trouble with their 2024 budget. It came in, I think, likely higher than what they wanted. But I mean, you know, other than the Scenic City and our municipality, I think everybody's was higher than what they desired. Okay, yeah, this is about dollars and cents, but our municipality took the leadership here, and it took 7.5 years, but we bit the bullet and we said, yeah, we're going to do this. It is a town line, regardless of it being on a deviation of the town line or not. It is the official town line between our municipalities, and is this going to be a precedent-setting situation? Maybe not only for our municipality involved, but other Grey County municipalities. Or is this, going to be, well, Chatsworth dropped out of potential partnership? Why can't we? I just feel what we received was insufficient, and I don't know. Maybe. I don't think I'm the only one, but
you're not. You're not.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I can very much appreciate where members of council are coming from on this. The style of this letter is very much the style of letter that goes between municipalities when a council resolution has been passed. Municipal clerks, of which Paddy is obviously one, take the without note or comment element of the Municipal Act fairly seriously. So if a resolution is passed, we tend to just say, here a resolution was passed and that's on. But for you guys to have conversations with individual members of councillors, or for the mayor to write to Mayor Mackey might be an option. I can't obviously speak for the township of Chatsworth or their council. And so everything I'm about to say is supposition, but I can see three different elements to this. One is that their recommendation or their motion here says continue to support the original environmental assessment. So I think that's probably the reason, is that that environmental assessment took place, and so they think that they can stick to that. I think that Chatsworth has had some difficulties over the last couple of years and has had to make some fairly difficult decisions about some of their own bridges and some of their future work plans and so on. But probably the key reason from my point of view as to why they are saying no is that we as a municipality have committed to paying for everything. And so if we weren't getting a contribution, so it would probably be my advice to you, if the shoe was on the other foot, that we shouldn't pay for something we don't have to pay for. As for a precedent setting, I don't believe so. I think there are a number of things here that are fairly unique. One is that there was an original environmental assessment that we've now said that we want to do something different to. The other is the length of time this has taken and council's decisions on moving forward. The third, which I think is the most important one in terms of precedent setting, is that we declined to take them to arbitration over this. The boundary road agreements always have fairly clear terms on arbitration if two parties can't agree on work that should take place. And so if there was another situation where a municipality said, no, I don't want to do that, then almost certainly in those situations, arbitration would be the thing that you would do. And so then there would be a decision made one way or other in favour of one party. So I don't think this is precedent setting particularly.
Did you wish to speak to that, Deputy Mayor?
No, only to add that I'm disappointed certainly as well, both in the county's decision and in Chatsworth's decision. And I'm just so proud of us for doing the right thing and moving these bridges forward. But I did have another question,
Sure.
but not related to,
Okay. Yeah, I think we better be, because there's no other opportunity.
yeah, sorry, Your Worship. Yeah, I did just have an additional question. I was just curious to know, the minutes from April 29th don't appear in this agenda.
Because I didn't have time to look at them between when I came back to work last Monday and when the agenda was published on Tuesday.
And so we'll see those on our next agenda.
Absolutely, yes.
Curious to know, are you taking minutes today or who's?
I am, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
We're in a little bit of an unusual situation today. I think I notified you that we've got a member of staff who's normally here who's away for a period of time. The other person who normally provide that backup just happens to be on a pre-booked vacation this week. So we're a little bit short this week, but that's why there's a couple of things that either aren't on this agenda or that I'm trying to do in the background.
And this would be a really good opportunity, since I don't know how many more meetings you will be in that chair, to thank you again for.
Hopefully none.
Well, I just really appreciate the outstanding support we've had through some challenging times, and I know how busy you've been because I see it. So thank you. Yeah. And now I need a motion. We're going to go into a closed session, simply to, I guess I can read this. We'll be going into a closed session to, along with the CAO clerk and director of development services, to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, and specifically related to nominations for the Meaford Main Streets Board. I'm very happy that we're having this opportunity today, and we will go into closed session next, but we will report out.
Just need to move in a second or in a vote
And
to
then
go into closed.
Yes, moved by Councillor Uhrig, seconded by Councillor Forder. All in favor? And carried. So we'll see you on the other side of this brief meeting.
Get a box of Kleenex on the way home.
Okay. Just reporting out on our closed session meeting, we dealt with Main Street Board nominations and appointing this new board, and that was all we discussed in the meeting. And with that, I'm declaring this meeting adjourned.